Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Beatrice Hyppolite and this is your world. Can you discuss the importance of self-care for caregivers and provide some example of self-care activities that caregivers might...
You see, we always know what each other are thinking. Must have been that doctoral program. We've been indoctrinated. Thank you. Yeah, so again, you have to develop the trust for them to listen to you. So it's going to take time, especially with a caregiver who's frustrated and maybe having a difficult time. But definitely encourage them to just take a little bit of time for themselves. Do something. Definitely they need to do their medical appointments. Mm-hmm. So if there's other family members, they need to know that your sister's not taking care, your brother's not taking care of themselves. You need to start coming over so they can get their medical care. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But encourage them to carve out time. Encourage them to talk about their frustrations or write them down. And just encourage them to realize they're not the police. They don't need to always be policing the client or making sure, that they need to sort of give themselves a little break too. Mm-hmm. Not everything can be perfect. Mm-hmm. It's okay if, you didn't get up, you got up today and you neither of you got dressed. And, it's okay. Don't be so hard on yourself. Not everything needs to be perfect. Mm-hmm. I often go into somebody's home, they're like, I'm so sorry, it's not clean, or, I didn't do the laundry. It's like, it's okay.
Who cares?
Who cares? You're in your pajamas. They're clean. The client's clean, but they're in their pajamas. Mm-hmm. They're in their pajamas.
Mm-hmm. If I have to explain to you why I didn't do some cleaning, I may as well invite you to help me out. Because at the end of the day, so it's a lot. And there are things that we probably want to do, but don't have the time, to do it. So one of the things that I always encourage people to do, regardless whether you are a caretaker or everybody, it goes for everybody, know how to take some time for yourself.
And if somebody offers you help, hey, can I bring you a meal? Take it.
Yeah, exactly.
If somebody from the church calls and says, hey, can I come over? Come on over. We're still in our pajamas, or the house isn't all that tidy, but come on over.
Exactly.
Accept the help.
And sometimes if I were not to bring lunch to work and go and sit even at a McDonald's, wherever, even buy something and go and sit at the park.
Yeah.
Enjoy that fresh air. Mm-hmm. And watch kids, people, dogs walking around or passing by. So just have that moment for yourself.
Go sit in your car at the beach. So a lot of times caregivers have to purchase a certain amount of time, like 4 hours or whatever. So if they do have that doctor's appointment, then you got 4 hours. Mm-hmm. Do some things for yourself. Mm-hmm. Get your nails done, or go get your hair cut, or go for a walk, or as you said, just sit and think and just have a chance to get some fresh air.
Go out for a movie. So I don't know if you like movies, so go out for a movie. Do something.
Exactly.
Have that me time. It's important.
And that's why journaling can be important, because you're going to tell them, I want you to do at least 1 or 2 things for yourself this week. So they're writing it, they're thinking, oh, okay, I got to make sure. So they might be journaling more and thinking more about things that are really important and putting them on their schedule. Like, I'm going to take this 1 hour today and this 1 hour on Thursday, using a diary or journal, so it'll hold, so they make a little contract with themselves that they're going to do something. Mm-hmm. And if sometimes when the healthcare provider comes, that could be your chance to go out. You could say, I've got to run out. You're here. Is it okay if I run to the store? Absolutely. Please go. Take that 45 minutes or hour. Take the time, if your therapist is there or your nurse is there, that you could take that little time, or you could go for the walk while they're there. So take offers of help and take the opportunities. Try to focus on priorities. Some things are obviously really
Very
important.
important.
Your child or the person you're taking care of has to be changed and clean, and maybe they have to have their medicine. But other things, give yourself a break. Or maybe get somebody in to help with cleaning or laundry, or if you don't want them taking care of your family member, maybe have people come in and do other things to support you.
And one thing I've seen, with some family members, and I'm gonna keep on taking that lady who passed away last year as an example. I've seen the way that her daughter treated that home attendant. So even though the home attendant was there, to remind the patient to take the medication, cook for the patient, clean, make sure the patient, lives in a clean environment, or do the patient laundry. But the daughter, kind of cut down on many of those tasks for her. So the daughter always makes sure that she does her mother's laundry. And she will tell the home attendant, relax. I know, my mom can be a burden, so I'll do the laundry.
Yeah.
So she makes sure that, every doctor's appointment, she will take her mother. And not let the home attendant do it.
And that gives them a little break.
And she always mentioned that to her. I want you to have some break.
Absolutely. And if you are the adult caregiver and your siblings aren't doing as much as you, which could happen because maybe you're the caregiver that lives the closest or lives with the person, fair enough. But you can ask them to do other things. Give them or ask them to do other tasks, like the laundry. Why can't they take the laundry to their place and wash and bring it back? Or to help with, you're going to do doctor's appointments. Can you help with laundry? Can you, try to divide up some of the responsibilities so that it can be helpful. But I definitely, respite, as you know, respite is very important for a caregiver.
Very important.
Even if it's 4 hours or 1 day a week or whatever.
It's very important.
It's
Even
very
if
important.
it is 2 hours, but you have to have some time for yourself.
And if there is only one caregiver, if it's a spouse or just, there's only one person to take care of it, then we have to really try to help them find the resources so that they can get that respite.
For the mental health component, therapy may be something, but therapy may not be needed at all times.
Right.
So what will be your recommendation if somebody feels stressed out?
Well, I'm big into
anxious?
Holistic medicine. So I love, like the deep breathing, relaxation, yoga, like that they learn some self-care strategies. If somebody's religious, prayer, of course, is a good one. To engage in meditative prayer, music, spiritual music. So encouraging them to use the things that we've learned in our education, the different strategies to help their mental health. Like things like, meditation, deep breathing, relaxation strategies. I mean, I've got a ton of them because I've learned them a lot. I've been interested in that, so I've learned it over the year.
Healthy diet.
Thank you. Yes, diet, hydration, just making sure that they realize that their diet is very important for their mental health, and that eating properly, because I think that's another thing that could happen with the caregiver is they're so focused on the client that they don't eat properly. So making sure, that they have, if they don't have the opportunity to eat 3 regular meals a day, that they're eating healthy things in between, or they're doing things like protein shakes or things like that to help keep themselves,
Make sure
built
you
up.
have a good sleep pattern.
Sleep is very important, and unfortunately for caregivers, that can be disrupted. Whether it be a child or an adult they're caring for, they can often have, sleep disruption. So then how do you, take care of that? How do you make up some of your sleep? Do you take naps when they're napping?
And in between, if it is your role is to provide the care for that person in the morning, then you will have the opportunity to sleep at night. Do I understand at night? Now you have your own family that you have to take care of.
And that's why getting
Or it
extra
can be
help
vice
is so
versa.
important if it's for a few hours, so that it's not all falling on one person. Now, it's really not proper care for somebody to be like a paid caregiver to be 24/7. Like they're supposed to get like the weekends off or one day a week off. So family members shouldn't be doing it either. They should not be doing that 24/7, 7 days a week, cycle of sleep disruption. They should be getting 2 days or one day at least, 1 or 2 days off. So that really is important for the other family members too, or they're going to need to get some paid resources. It's very unhealthy to do that.
Yeah,
24.
it is unhealthy.
Yeah,
it is
24/7.
very unhealthy. It's a serious issue. And I don't think people really sometimes, consider and see it as an issue.
It's very serious.
It's very serious.
And especially, unfortunately, I think spouses end up, as you said, in that situation because that's our duty as a spouse. But then, other people are like, well, they've got each other. But it could be a real burnout situation.
And sometimes you even have the kids who will not offer any support.
Right.
This one may move to California, that one may move to another state, and you have 4 or 5 of them living in 5 different.
That's what I find a lot.
So
they're
it's
not
like
there.
they're not there.
But sometimes I'll pick up the phone and say, this is not a good situation, and they will come. Like they'll say, they'll hear it in my voice. They'll be like, okay, we're going to come for a week. But a lot of times they don't. So then we have to try to find supports in the community.
Years ago, I remember I conducted a home visit, and to be quite honest, I felt for the patient. And that day, I even spent my own money. My supervisor told me that, you're not gonna get reimbursed by the agency. I'm like, at this point, I don't really care. If she was my mother, I would have took care of her. So I'm not gonna leave the lady in the house with no food.
Absolutely.
So it's like I got there, a bunch of she was really frail. So from that day, I started putting paperwork for her to have the proper assistance that she needed. But prior to that, got there.
It was an emergency.
It was, and to even leave the lady that night, I was concerned. So when I called my supervisor and I said, this is the condition, so I'm just calling you to inform you that I'm going to buy food for her. She killed me that day. At least if she had told me, that's not the agency policy, because it was not cooked food. It was most likely bread, eggs, food that I will not, so it's like, and for you to say, the first thing to say is that, the agency will not reimburse you. And I'm like,
you didn't do it for the money.
I don't care. I'm not doing it for the money.
You did it for
So how much money I'm going to spend? A $30? A $20? That will kill me? And I'm like, no, don't worry about the money. So since you are the supervisor and you know that I was going to do the home visit and I will have to report anyway, I'm telling you exactly what the situation is and what I'm about to do. It was sad when, I asked her if she had children. She told me yes, she had 5 kids. And she didn't even know when the last time she saw them.
That's shocking.
Each of them live in a different state. And I'm like, no. I understand that, as adults, we have our lives. We have our own burdens with our own family. I got it. But at the same token, know that our parents, they should be our priority too.
Absolutely.
They took care of us. Now, it's our time to be of assistance to them. How are you going to leave your mother, 80 plus, live in a small house alone?
I mean,
not knowing that whether she has food, whether she has proper heat, whether the water is running, nothing. That I'm like, some kids can do better. And you know what? I will not care whether you got upset, but I'll write the report that I need to write.
Absolutely.
No, I'll write the report that I need to write. And I've seen oftentimes that person gave those kids the best of her. And now you cannot even be there for her, not even
make sure she
one
has
day.
food.
Make sure she has food.
The basics.
Running water, proper heat. Come on. No, some children, should do better.
Right, and then you have the ones that burden the one child and don't help,
Don't get me wrong. There are some parents who are privileged to have wonderful children. But there are some parents.
Yeah, I've seen it myself.
Oh, Lord have mercy. You just sometimes say, you know what? I think you probably will be better off without those kids.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing is sometimes I find the adult children are a bit too, they want to they're over involved and they controlling. They're not allowing them to do this. They're not allowing to that. They're not giving them any say. They're making all the decisions and they're over the top with, and that's not being a good caregiver either.
No.
Because especially if the person is
capable,
cognitively intact, let them make some decisions. Let them do some of the things they want to do. You can't control them.
Yeah.
So they almost are going into like full scale, like I'm parenting a young child. You're not. You're taking care of an adult.
By the time you ask the patient a question, they will give you the answer.
Right. So those ones I'll try to ask them to go do something else or whatever and let you also want to, watch out for those caregivers who are, and honestly, they will burn out eventually because you can't keep control over another human being for too long. You're eventually going to burn out when you realize your goals are not appropriate. And then,
but sometimes
you're going to get very stressed.
I've seen some parents or patients who will just surrender. They got to a point, they're not going to fight because they don't want to make that child upset.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And they become kind of passive, which is not good.
No.
Because you don't want your client to be passive because then they're not taking a role in recovery. They're sort of just like whatever she says, whatever they say, whatever they want. And we have to do our work with those difficult caregivers too, that are too controlling.
Yeah. It's a real challenge.
It's a real challenge, but you cannot, as I said, to my students, you can't work with clients in a vacuum. Those parents of the child you're working with, or the spouse of the person you're working with, or the adult children of the person they're part of your your care plan. They have to be a part of it. So you're going to have to deal with them. You're going to have to learn how to deal with them. Even if they are difficult or not doing what they should or overdoing it, like you're going to have to work to build that relationship with them.
Exactly.
I think you also mentioned this to me earlier too, looking at the high volume caregiver. So this is somebody who's doing that 40, 50 hours a week.
Yes.
Those are the caregivers that we really need to be concerned about. So there is actually a term for that, and that is the high burden caregiver. So those are, again, you're going to definitely need to do your assessment, make sure that they're healthy or keeping up their own health. And if they're not, trying to put some interventions into place. There are caregivers that are, coming once a week or twice a week. But the high intensity caregiver are the ones. And typically it's a middle-aged woman taking care of a parent. Those are typically your high intensity caregivers. And some cultures are very at risk for this type of caregiving because of financial reasons. They become this full-time caregiver. So the Latino or African American are more often the high intensity caregiver.
What about the Caribbean?
I think they probably would fit in there too. So they're, because of the way, it could be cultural too, that they're the way their culture is, you must always take care of your aging parent. They're programmed to do this.
Too.
Yeah. So they're going to be engaging in this high intensity caregiver. So it's a woman, it could be male, but typically it's a woman taking care of her parent. This could go on for years. This could be something where they're going to, they say average is about 5 years. So these are caregivers that are doing it for a long time. And they're helping them for 40 to 50 hours a week with things like bathing and getting dressed, and also like taking care of their finances, cooking, medical, household tasks, and then of course the medical and nursing tasks on top of it. So this high intensity caregiver is kind of a newer term that we should be zeroing in on those caregivers. Adult children that are sort of sharing the load and somebody's coming twice a week, or you have a parent of a child, but they have support, they have babysitting, the child goes to school, maybe not as much risk. But the high intensity caregivers that are doing these long hours for many years, those are the ones we need to really zero in on. And those are the ones that would be good to do the assessment, caregiver assessment. And because of the way the economy is going and the fact that we're seeing a lot of programs being cut right now, a lot of funding, we might see more of these high intensity caregivers, right? Because there's not going to be as many state programs maybe, or there's going to be some cuts to federal programs. We've seen that already. We're going to see more of this, more people, because of course, the United States is built up of all of us. Most of us came from another country. I came from Ireland, you came from Haiti. We're going to see a lot of these people that are working to achieve, the American dream, but they also have the pressure of taking care of their parents or their elderly relatives. And they're trying to do it all. They're trying to work 1 or 2 jobs, or their spouse is working 1 or 2 jobs, and they're working 1 job to try to stay on top of financially, with food prices going up and housing prices going up. And,
everything.
Everything's going up. Now the cost of transportation and all of that. And then what they're trying to do is do it all. And we need to just be really aware of that. And it does seem to affect some cultures more than others. And it's typically your immigrant families that are just trying to get started, get it going, make it, that are going to be also taking care of their elderly relatives. And they may bring them, from other countries to, have their good medical care here, but now they become the caregiver. So we really need to pay attention to that high intensity caregiver, and be aware, this person's giving so many hours a week, or they're living with the person, or they've had the parent come and live with them. Those are the caregivers we really need to be paying attention to, because they're oftentimes neglecting themselves and they're not getting services.
It can go both ways. They may be neglecting themselves, but they may neglect the patient as well too.
Yeah,
because
especially if they're trying to work.
You're doing way too much. It's a lot for one person. You work 1 or 2 jobs, you have a family on your own, and you have a patient that needs a 24 hours care. So it's like, if you were to give that person a shower twice a day, that person may end up getting only 1 shower a day.
Or 1 a week. Yeah.
That's even worse.
Yeah. So it's really important to pay attention to those, caregivers that are doing too much.
They will be at more higher risk
for burnout, for mental health issues, for physical health issues. Keep an eye on your caregivers. Be observant. Look when you go into somebody's home, or even if it's their hospital room or their room in the skilled nursing facility. Pay attention to what's going on with the caregiver.
Okay.
And be there for them.
Okay. Is that your final message for everyone?
That is.
Okay. So, my darling, was it not enough to thank you for driving all the way from Connecticut to New York? I know traffic was not easy.
Yeah, but it was kind of nice because I was alone and I had my music and no kids. So, that was the caregiver taking care of herself. No teenagers yelling at me from the back seat.
Okay, so you know what?
I took some time.
You know what? So we're going to have our time, after the show.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. I love it. Thank you for having me.
You have to come up again.
I will. I will. All right.
It was with you, Dr. Hyppolite, with your work.